Okay, because Cloud9 and FlyQuest are actually going to be playing later today, or at least uh, further on in the day, several hours from now, I have decided to look back at a game I did not look over, or at least I didn't record looking it over, and so I will then a long form review of it. So, I am Rojo, and Cloud9 versus FlyQuest. Sure, thing doesn't scream at me. So, immediately the first thing we look at is a Volibear ban. Uh, Volibear and Set were very, very strong, or considered very strong, in the jungle, so makes some sense. We're probably going to end up seeing a Olaf ban. I don't remember enough about this game, if I remember anything about this game. But I would imagine Olaf ban is coming. Oh, it's Twisted Fate ban with Karma. We'll just let all the bans go through. And we can, yeah. Twisted Fate ban, global pressure, is able to maintain control of the lane, depending on matchups. And with the way that Cloud9 likes to play, you have a roaming mid laner who can affect the side lanes, and his jungler. So there's a lot of power in that, as well as pretty easy gank setup for whatever jungler Blabber ends up taking here. Karma banned away by Cloud9, very strong general. First pick that has kind of dropped off in value since as we come into the playoffs. But doesn't really seem to have a reason to drop off. It's just a little weird that they wouldn't want to pick it for any of the three potential roles it could find itself in, as a very good versatile general first pick. So on blue side, getting rid of it is a little weird, but it's not the end of the world. Olaf being banned away, it makes sense because it's Cloud9. I mean, they found immense success with it. Able to build around their jungler, which is not necessarily common across the league, across most leagues. So, good stuff. Getting rid of it against Cloud9, although generally I don't know if Olaf is necessarily that strong. Aphelios, this is still around the time when he's strong. It's a little, we're just a few weeks after this, or even the week after, Aphelios starts really dropping off in value. But right now he has stayed, or at least during this time he was still relevant and picked fairly often. As well, of course, you can see that Cloud9 probably do not want to first pick him. I don't think that they were really first picking Aphelios most times. They're putting a lot of resources on Sven just to make sure that they'd have a strong AD carry pick or a stable AD carry pick so that they could play around the top side more. And then along with the Olaf ban is Lee Sin, another playmaking early game jungler. Now, we can argue about the efficacy of the style, but it is something that Cloud9 has put in a lot of time on, has found a lot of success with, so it makes sense to get rid of it.
Attack C9 where they're strongest. There's no easy shortcuts to actually
Kalista,
pinning down C9.
is that going to be the pick?
Also be a
yes.
top.
Kalista is a very strong bottom laner. Basically, I mean, she basically wins every lane that I've seen. I don't know if I've ever seen a Kalista not win the lane. Be able to maintain control of that lane. The question is, can she snowball? And Cloud9 is a team that has a lot of power to do that from their mid jungle duo. So you could argue that there is some use in this pick, but it's not the most versatile first pick. And generally, how I like to think of it, that especially these first three picks on both sides, generally want to be very versatile. They don't really want to have to stick to a style. When you pick Kalista, you're almost basically saying we have to do something to snowball Kalista. We're going to be putting a lot of focus on the bottom side of the map, which means that in order to counter us, your jungler goes downward toward the bottom lane to prevent any ganks and protect the lane. As well, you can create situations where the opposing laners are basically not actually killable or are so stable and that there's nothing that even with extra pressure, they would require extra resources from their mid laner or even their top laner to actually snowball the Kalista.
Laner, if that Wukong
Okay.
on champions that just naturally
So, Trundle and Ezreal are then picked up. Trundle is a champion that Centaurans found a lot of success with, mostly with the Trundle and Rakan duo. If you're short range enough, if the opposing team is short range enough, or they're playing very close to you, it's basically an uncounterable engage tool. The two of them together are very difficult to get out of. The Ezreal is just a very stable bottom laner who can play against Kalista, not necessarily beating her, or I mean, he just doesn't suffer the most. He has fairly long range. He can, if he needs to, he can CS from range. Um, you can also pick champions that don't necessarily have to babysit the Ezreal, because Ezreal is one of the champions in the bottom lane that doesn't need assistance in the bottom lane. So these are all fine. I bet you this is going to be a Rakan. Just as I mentioned, the Rakan Trundle duo. The Ezreal Rakan duo was also something that Wild Turtle and Ignar were using quite often. I'm not sure if it was to great effect, but it was being used often. Um, so then we go into the. Oh, also just uh, Trundle is a champion that wants to generally go forward. He's not a very defensive choice. He does have some defensive choices in his play patterns, but it's not really what he wants to be doing. Whereas Ezreal is someone that, while in a team fight, he doesn't need to be defended. Um, if you have someone who's just like running in, now you're asking Ezreal to do something that because he has to actually run to meet with the targets that Trundle is hitting, and those targets are generally going to go backwards, which means that you're increasing the distance for Ezreal to do something. Um, and then you're putting Ezreal closer and closer to the opposing team. So if they come in, they can actually start attacking the Ezreal too. So this is the issue of congruity that I constantly talk about. Not not like
in the entire league.
uh,
And
it
when you
matters, but
take people like that and you put them on
at least
champions that just
what I talk
naturally
about,
use
it
the lane,
just
you are really
it's
taking
something that
advantage
I
of that.
notice
So
and
they
I
may be getting
harp on.
aggressive here. If you go set second pick after the Kalista, I actually really like it because it makes a lot of sense.
I haven't seen this.
So what I'm seeing is, first of all, this duo is very, very strong. They're able to protect each other. Very aggressive. Cannot really. You're basically trying to lock down the support to be next to Ezreal at all times, or at least as long as Thresh and Kalista are in the same place. Kalista really can't be caught out because of Thresh. Thresh can't be caught out because of Kalista. It's a really good duo. And then the set comes in kind of as an answer to the Trundle. He's probably going jungle. As I said, Volibear and Set were the premier junglers at the time. The tier 1, or I guess the perceived tier 1s during these patches leading up to the playoffs. So we already see a very, very, very aggressive composition. There is a bit of safety. There is defensive choices. They can kite backwards, and in fact, Set actually does like it when people walk into him. He doesn't. He doesn't, especially jungle Set, who if he tries to go, all right, I'm gonna flank in, and then he's just chunked out because he's against Ezreal, right? Or he's blocked off because he's against Trundle. So it's not really an option. So FlyQuest should probably be choosing to go, okay, well, we can get a enchanter, we can get something that prevents them from coming into us or prevents uh, serious engages. Morgana is a huge pick here, actually, because Morgana not only beats this Thresh very, very hard because she counters pretty much everything that he can do, but because it allows you safety in the later stages of the game, it create situations where the Trundle is more safe. I don't think that Morgana is actually going to get picked here. It's going to be Rakan I don't remember that, but
Since the last game, Jasmine memes aside, it
Pantheon.
is pretty much number one.
Okay. It's not Rakan. So this was around the time where Pantheon was becoming a very high profile support pick. I think more prolifically in solo queue, but the Pantheon was, and I guess still can be considered a very strong kill threat within the bottom lane. Now here's the thing, that's not a kill threat target, and that's going to just kill you if you try. Like, this is just the opposite of what I would expect. I can't imagine that this is actually, like, if this actually goes support, I actually don't remember this at all, so I must not have watched this game, which is strange to me, or I just don't remember. But the Pantheon is an interesting pick into this situation, and kind of is exactly what Cloud9 want to see. So Cloud9 are actually like, okay, yeah. Yeah, all right, yeah, yeah. Well, all right, yeah, okay, we're good. We're good with that. You can have Pantheon. And the Ezreal, by the way, I mean, you're just looking at two champions. You're like, all right, I'm gonna go in, and then Ezreal's like, all right, guys, I'm coming. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Let me just walk 7,000 paces, and then Q. Oh, and then you guys are dead. Oh man. Okay, well, I'll just walk back then. All right, it's fine. Throw out a Q. All right, walk back.
One down there. You're going to see it in every single game. This time around, it will be drafted by
Also, just this is 100% an Iceborne Gauntlets game. Like, if there's any other item on Wild Turtle's inventory, if he builds that Triforce, I'm gonna be a little upset. Although I guess you can see the reasoning. You can see the reasoning. These are two fairly early game focused, mid early game focused, or early mid focused champions. Pantheon obviously at support doesn't really scale at all. He just has his base damages, and then he's just a stun bot basically. After that, I guess global pressure for the mid game, but then late game is it's effectively not a factor. Um, you could argue a Triforce could be good if you're trying to really spike your damage around the mid game. But from what you can see, you're looking at champions that are like, all right, so uh, I need to protect myself from AD so far. Um, Although I guess you could argue I'm not going to have to deal with them, but the other argument is that there's utility from the Iceborne Gauntlet that allows you to negate some of the power that Callista has, as well as some of the ability for Set to actually be aggressive. So
the Pantheon locked in for FlyQuest, which
also I
remember
didn't
we
even
saw
mention the
them
Jace.
very
We'll just go through
successfully.
the bans.
Big round.
Okay. Uh, Jace is then banned. I have no idea why they would pick this. So okay. Unless there is a champion they're about to pick that is so aggressively bad against Jace that they must ban Jace, because it would be so, because even though it doesn't make sense into this, they would obviously pick it if they had the option. Like, that is the only uh, logic rationale that I can put to this ban. And then the Azir banned away. I could see it. It falls completely in the counter to Pantheon and Trundle, but I can see it. Then the Zoe ban. Sure, this is a champion that Niski's found a lot of success on. It would shore up some of the lack of magic damage that Cloud9 currently has, as well as it allows you to prep fights if Zoe's landing her abilities, especially into champions like Trundle and Pantheon who are trying to come into you, especially with Trundle's only ability to walk into you being walk into you. The the Sleepy Trouble Bubbles and the Paddle Stars that would hit the Trundle would be really, really bad, and it would set up fights for a strong mid game around Cloud9 and those dragons. Then the Renekton banned away. I don't know if does Renekton have an aggressively bad early game into Jace. I guess it wouldn't be great. So maybe they noticed, okay, they're banning Jace. Clearly they're going to they're looking at Renekton. But when you look at the two champions that they just banned, these are two entirely different options, right? These two do so different things. They're going one and then the other. Look at these bans, right? Azir is a front to back champion that is focused on DPS. Renekton is a aggressive early game champion that focuses on front end burst into just being an annoying bruiser inside of your team. I have no idea why if FlyQuest pick Renekton here, are you actually sad? What are you gonna like? Why would you be sad about that? Why wouldn't you like Renekton to be played into you? He does what he likes. You can kite him to oblivion. He can stop Renekton coming in. Like there's just so much that says please pick Renekton. Oh my god, please. So I mean the Azir, I can see a reason why you'd get rid of it. Power of Evil has found some success on Azir. Most mid laners have because it's a very strong pick. But the Renekton is interesting to me.
Azir and Renekton banned away.
Already in draft, solo is often put a ton of set.
The Ornn is then picked up by FlyQuest coming into the top lane. So now you're seeing scaling options being put in. So obviously Ezreal is already a scaling option. But now you have the Ornn, who's even amplifies scaling even further, and slash his mid game is very very strong. Once he hits level 13 now, he feels very 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 strong. He just gets a massive boost in health, in stats, and he becomes extremely obnoxious. Um, Thing is, this is going to happen around third dragon if it's late, fourth dragon if it is, if we're being pretty on time with the dragons. So what we're seeing here is uh, this could be problematic. The timing might be a little off based on how they want to fight. Because Ornn, I mean, he's able to fight before his upgrades come in, but generally he doesn't want to be doing that. Just because, optimally speaking, why would you want to fight when you could gain massive stats for free just by waiting a few levels or one level in some cases? So FlyQuest are kind of saying to themselves, we need to be getting at least one of the early dragons because that fourth dragon cannot be soul point for Cloud9. If it's just, or sorry, cannot be soul for Cloud9. If it's soul point for Cloud9, I could argue saying, okay, well we can push off, we can wait for a little bit, and then we can go for it. The Azir, by the way, would have been an awesome pick in this spot. And then the Ornn could have been picked here. Then you actually have a really good you have a tank, you have two front to back DPS champions, and then you have some aggressive options if you really really want to. I guess you could also snowball the early game using Pantheon and Trundle. The likelihood of, but what I'm seeing right now is this isn't actually getting used. But of course, if these two picks are vulnerable to Pantheon, we'll see.
Plays a ton of Ornn. Those are picks that generally can go up against the Kale to the side down enough, really heavily to the side.
Kale's a little out of nowhere, and is literally the opposite of of what they were picking. I don't know. Did someone? Okay, so did someone like? Here's what happened, guys. Okay, so what happened was they did these first four picks. They did one ban. They did the bans, and then they did the picks here, and then they did one ban against Azir, and then someone else stepped in. They said, "All right, Renekton's a problem because we're gonna pick Kale. We're scaling." And it's like, why would what? So Kale's use for huge portions of the game is to put an ultimate on that. That's it. That's it. Until she actually gets to where she wants to be, put an ult on Set. Put an ult on Galio. And then do 10 damage per auto. It's a little interesting. Once you hit 16, that 1 out of 16, 2 out of 16 meme that Twitch chat likes to do, it's good. But by that point, Callista is like, why am I even here? By that point, Jungle Set is like, oh, I don't have any resources. I can't do anything. Rush is okay, I guess. Infinite scaling. There it is. Okay. Anyway, yeah. As you can tell, I don't think this is very the congruity between these three and this one pick is really, really weird. I mean, even this pick makes more sense with this. It's literally just Kale and the guys, like Kale and the rest of the team. Is the strategy after like 30 minutes, but before 30 minutes, it's uh the rest. It's hi guys, let's drag Kale over the finish line. So either Kale isn't going to be useful, or Kale is your last hope. And that is a really, really weird draft to come up with. Because at the very least, if it was more like, if it was a Kennen, if this was like a Camille or something, I could see, oh, well, we're going to be fighting one item, 2 items, we're not even going to be worried. 2 items still, Kale's like, yeah, I need levels. I'm like half a champion still, guys. Let me just... Yeah, that's not great. Her laning phase against Ornn is probably fine. So there's that. Isolated matchup, probably good. Not gonna. They're just gonna farm. I can't imagine that they're actually going to be really harming each other unless there's some mistake made by the Kale. Because I think that Ornn is just very stable, and there's no way Kale's gonna do anything to affect Ornn negatively. But it's down to, can Ornn affect the Kale negatively? Obviously, under optimal conditions, he doesn't just want to have a farm lane into Kale, but I don't see it being that different. Maybe I'm wrong, and we'll see. But and then the Galio, which is being blinded, very strong pick with Cloud9 generally. I mean, this doesn't really have. They don't really have like a, oh, obviously this is what they're gonna do when they're trying to fight. They're gonna have like, this Thresh, he's gonna hook in and he's gonna go, and then Galio's gonna ult on top of it. Like, it's their team fight is good for like the first 20-25 minutes. If they fall behind, they have no actual way of getting into the game except for FlyQuest letting them and then hoping Kale can carry them through the rest. That's their strategy. Yeah, I mean, you definitely just play down to the bottom lane with this composition. I can't imagine that there's any reason you'd want to play towards the top side. So, because Kale doesn't provide setup, she doesn't provide priority. Not into Ornn at least. It it feels really awkward, really awkward. So now FlyQuest are actually kind of rewarded. So there were actually champions that were like not feeling very good into Cloud9, and then it just became, what is that champion gonna do? Like, is this gonna be a big issue for us? Is this no? Okay, good. It's 4v5 then. They do have extra stasis for like, have extra immunity for like 2 seconds, but we can just go past that. It's fine. Um, it's not the worst by Cloud9, but it's definitely, I don't like it at all. And given the fact that now FlyQuest feel comfortable with 4 revealing their last pick, I mean, it's just almost guaranteed draft win. But maybe I'm wrong, and I'm just hyping them up, and it's gonna be some hot.
So there is the potential.
What is it gonna be?
Casio, which can actually be
It's gonna be. What's it gonna be?
In that 1v1, or not. Obviously,
it's Orianna.
Strong DC between the
yeah, FlyQuest hard win. Hard win draft. Hard win. Orianna is extremely stable mid laner, able to play most styles, very versatile, very good general pick. It's nothing that's gonna do anything like super impressive until a certain point of the game. But the shockwaves can always make an impact. And with a strong tank that's not really gonna move, with an early game jungler who can basically just negate what Cloud9 want to do. Like that's his job. Santorin's job is not to, oh my god, we're gonna get this gank. We're gonna gank the KO like 4 times. I'm gonna gank. We're gonna get this flash and then we're gonna come back and bam, and we're gonna get, no. It's just counter set. That's the game plan because you just automatically scale out of them because there's a point in time where this is how do I illustrate this? The early game is like this for Cloud9, and then it starts dropping off, and then it gets pretty bad, and then you have Kale who adds a little bump at 16, and then the rest of the team is like there, right? Because the rest of the team is like slumped at this point. It's probably unfair. It's probably more like that. That's their overtime scale, right? This is the overtime scale of power. If we look at for Cloud9, if we look at the one for FlyQuest, their scale is pretty much, it's like stable in the beginning, and then you can argue it goes down a little bit, and then it just skyrockets, and then it just keeps going. Like that's how it works for FlyQuest. There's a limit to how much power Cloud9 can have because there are anchors on their team. Well, I guess Thresh isn't really an anchor. But there's an anchor on their team in this, an anchor on their team in this, that brings down their overall late game power. I guess if jungle set can reach 6 items, never mind. You actually, if you get real late, you can start seeing an upward trend in power for Cloud9. But there's a certain limit to how much power they can actually have because they don't really have scaling options except for the Kale. Whereas FlyQuest have these 3 champions, and then you have 2 champions that are kind of like, I feel like you don't pick Pantheon to prevent getting killed, but it's seemingly what they're doing. There's no reason, there's no way that Ignar sitting there like, we're gonna kill him. I mean, he's going Ignite, so maybe he's thinking we're gonna kill him. Definitely interesting. I personally would not expect Ignar to be able to kill them, but maybe Kalista could be vulnerable during the early laning. But maybe there is hope. Maybe there's hope in that respect. Other than that, though, I mean, Ignar's Ignite is probably going to be used more towards mid lane, maybe towards top lane. Just being used as extra true damage during mid skirmishes. But I feel like Exhaust is just way more valuable. It doesn't really work with how Pantheon is designed to be played or is intended to be played in the support role, but Exhaust just has way more value because you can exhaust a whole bunch of targets. You exhaust Kalista, she's useless now. You exhaust Galio, he's caught out and he's dead. You exhaust Flabber, I'm not sure why you do that, but you can. And then if you exhaust the Kale, I mean, then her power goes from I'm a go. So, into the game.
Galio taunt, the Thresh hook. We'll find out if Power Bugle feels safe enough to go for the teleport.
Nothing wrong with Captain Flowers and Azael, but I'm skipping over their discussion.
Especially in the early stages. And
going here for Cloud9. See
right.
if
they're on with that Trundle.
They went towards the top side.
But there is opportunities.
This is beautiful. What a view that you never see on the game. Okay, so they all went pretty much. It looks like they came in through different routes, but they ended up in that bush there. I'm not really sure the point of that, and in fact, it actually ends up losing kind of some position because
FlyQuest
No,
has been
I guess
having
it
their
didn't. I
own
thought that
share
for some
of
reason I thought
struggles,
Trundle
particularly
was
last week. They
on-
bounced back the way they
part
did
of
against
Cloud9's team.
TSM yesterday. I
So
do think this team
nothing
has
ends up
the
really happening. In
players
fact, it's
still
actually a very
really on their
defensive
mark to make
position
Cloud9
by
work
all
for
of
it next
Cloud9. They're
season.
not really at the
I
line
guess
of
we'll see,
scrimmage
can
on the
they
river.
look
They're
good against
they're
Cloud9
very
and
far
if they
back.
get that monumental advantage? Because they look great against TSM, don't get me wrong.
I would hope
But
that
they did create such a
Fresh
big
Callista are
advantage
not
off of that
looking
Frodo
for
bait
a. I mean, it
follow-up
looks like
kill
Callista's not going
blue
for
buff.
a
It felt
leash.
like
Okay,
the
they're not
game
going
was
for a leash.
decided
Okay.
against TSM in the first 5 minutes.
Because
And then they
generally,
did
when
good
you pick
to
these
start
champions, you
in
want
and
to
really not make any errors. But can you
dominate
create that sort of
the
lead on
early
your
lane
own,
as
right?
much as
Because
you
we're not
can.
getting any sort of fireworks
Looks like
early
Ignar
on
actually gave a
in
spell,
this
so
game, and I
that's
want to
gonna
see
tell
how
them where he
they can
started.
evenly match
If
the
it
pace of
doesn't
Cloud9
regenerate,
because I
it
do
is
think
not
that's something
regenerated.
that
So
FlyQuest has struggled with at
that's
times.
they
They're a
know
very aggressive
now
team, and if you
where
allow Cloud9 to impose their will upon you,
they
to
100%
maintain
know
and being the
that
one
they
setting the pace of
leashed
the
at
game
least
for Cloud9,
minimally
likely
this
that's going to
Santorin.
make it well.
Also now Niski just. I
C9
mean,
getting a
this is
ward down
evidence
early
based on
on
the
the
fact that
red buff of
the bottom
FlyQuest,
lane
seeing
from
him
Cloud9
still
literally
there.
just
They know
said
that Trundle didn't start
they
with that
leashed
red buff.
blue.
They know that he's going to be heading
So
towards
Niski
that
was
blue
like, all right,
side
I'll
lane.
just go
TSM
check the red,
Blab is
and bam, it's
likely to
gone.
be doing the same. They might get into a bit of a scrap there around the top side or potentially around
So
that
this
top
is
side.
going
Blab
fine.
inventory of everything.
Yeah,
You can see that it's 3 teleports on the side
it
of
doesn't seem like
FlyQuest. Power
it's
of Evil
the
going for the
happiest
teleport as opposed to the
lane.
cleanse we were talking
It's not
about.
gonna
We'll see if
be
he wants
the
to go with
worst
that
for
summoner
Kale.
spell.
She
He
shouldn't be
has
that
that as a
vulnerable,
stack for the CC. He
but
thinks he can get away
we'll see.
without it. Sven going for a heal in the bottom lane there on the AD carry role, so going to have more combat power, but not having the same map presence as Wild Turtle will here with this
Trundle
victory.
went for a
Remember, the Wild
full
Turtle is currently on
blue side clear into
1,499
red
career
into
kills.
Krugs, it
So
looks
our
like.
first kill that Turtle gets
Set
this
is
game will be his
red, Raptors, Wolves
1,500th
blue
kill.
into top side. He's
And
not going to
that's
get
pretty
anything because
damn
there is a
impressive.
ward that he just
That's
walked
a
past
lot of bodies
that he
for the
is not
build
aware
difference
of
for Turtle.
because of
I mean, he has had
the
a
4-man
really
that
good
ended up
career
going
and
and
spanned so many
doing
teams now.
going to the
And
top
obviously
lane.
most
Also,
importantly
maybe
in
solo
his
put
time
down
being
a
back on TSM, but
ward.
he's doing
Let me actually
FlyQuest.
just check. And there's no way he was able to get that ward. Yeah, that is from their invade. I mean, it's not really an invade, but that's from their early
Will
play.
be his
The level
1,500th
1
kill.
position that
And that's
FlyQuest
pretty damn
went
impressive.
on the top side.
That's a lot of bodies
So
for
they're
the build
getting pushed into the
difference.
tower. This is
I mean,
natural.
he has had
They
a
actually could
really,
have gone
really
for a
good
recall
career
if they
and
really
he's
wanted to
spanned
because
so
this is a
many
lot of
teams now.
minions.
And
It might have been
obviously
too
most
late. Let me
importantly,
actually look at the position of the opposing
First
wave
kill,
as it was coming
Turtle
in.
gets this game.
Because generally what you want to do when you're looking for a recall of this type from these kinds of minions is you want to make sure that your minions are at a certain point. I think if it's just past tier 2 or before tier 2, this is a free recall. I mean, this one is just dead. Yeah, this is a free recall. Because I can't imagine that. No, it is a free recall. They could have taken it. At worst, they
Will
lose out
be
on 2
his
minions and they come back with way more power.
1,500th
Or
kill.
they force
And that's pretty
teleport
damn
on Wild
impressive.
Turtle, which
That's
is
a
actually
lot of bodies
really
for third kill
beneficial
for
because
Mr.
then
Turtle.
they can be aggressive in the
He has
lane.
had a really, really good
Now,
career and he's
Callista
spanned
went
so
heal
many
instead of
teams now.
teleport, but
Obviously,
they can be
most
aggressive in the
importantly
lane,
for his
and if they
time
can
back
force
on TSM,
the
but he's been
Ezreal
with
out
FlyQuest quite a long
without his
time now.
teleport,
You know,
then he comes
way
back
back
into a
in the
really
day,
bad
I
situation,
spent
and
some
it just
time
becomes
working
even
with
worse and worse and
Logic,
worse.
and I think
Which is
he
the
really
kind of
needs to
advantage that
be
you'd
a
like to
first
see on the
line used
Callista.
up
It's
a little
not
bit. So
the
he's been
substantive
around
advantage
since pretty
that
much the very
is,
beginning.
hey,
And
I'm the
because
Callista and I
Wild
have
Turtle
the
has had
like
a great
the
career.
lead because I'm super strong.
Blabber
It's
moving
I have the
towards this
lead
top
because
side
he's
river.
weaker.
It's Scuttle Crab time, Isaac.
Okay.
Santorin and Blabber both have it in their sights.
This
Kale
is
trying to
actually
take
a
it
game
down,
of
Actually,
steps
us
away.
so
Yeah,
they all
this
went to the
is
Scuttle Crab.
this
I believe this is actually. Is it FlyQuest that also had the bottom lane scuttle nonsense happen with Cloud9 before? So it's happening on the top side this time. I think that's what I think it's something that I remember, but regardless, it's not that important right now. So obviously Blabber is very entitled as set to just walk in and do some nonsense because that's just how he is. Here's the issue though: you have a Kale on the other side of the map. Who has next to no mana, and a wave that she'd like to actually push in, not sit there and have to deal with this nonsense. Now the problem is, of course, that Solo is able to move down, and if he's able to move down, then Kale has to respond, right?
It's like
Me on Kale, save flowers, don't do it.
It's the full 3-man brawl in the river for the Scuttle Crab, the most
Solo
important
kind
objective
of
in all of League of Legends. But Cloud9 will
goofed
make
it.
the
It's not that
call.
big. It's not the
They
end of the world. It doesn't
concede
really
their
matter.
little green friend, and it's FlyQuest who take control over the area. Santorin secures that one.
I think Santorin should probably beeline it straight to the bottom, right? He should definitely try to make sure he can get that. It looks like they're going to try. Here's the issue. They cannot... The topside difference is something that FlyQuest win out on. They do not necessarily win out on the bottom side difference. They're not going to contest.
Get the other one.
Flabber's like, I see an angle. Get this.
But what if I use my face breaker? He's there. He got the bottom side when he didn't get two crab. That
Why
was
is
important.
Wild Turtle almost dead?
Now Blabber may look to make something happen underneath this turret here. Ignar has used his shield.
Now they know that
Considering
Santorin is around here.
Santorin is right there at the Gromp. Trying to do a turret dive with the enemy jungler just a couple of feet behind is never really a smart idea.
Not Turtle.
And so I guess
Santorin walks over to the bush just to make sure that there's no set in there, and then he walks over to his wolves. Set is going to do his raptors and then go to his rugs, I would imagine, and then reset. Issue being that that's not necessarily helpful for the dragon play, and they're actually going to be behind on tempo. They try. Okay, Sven is just like, oh, is he? No. No, he's fine. My goodness, if he didn't have heal, he was dead. So, that's interesting. Then again, if he has teleport instead of heal, he probably just doesn't. He's not in that position at all. Because he doesn't need to be in that position.
Actually, you know, thinking, okay, I'm safe, Flabber's here, Vulcan's here, they can't dive me. You can see mid lane, you can see top lane, so does end up staying around.
So lanes are going fine for everyone involved. Turtle is going to have to teleport, it looks like. He's choosing not to. He's choosing not to. They actually...
Now the reason he did that is to actually stack
Wait.
the enemy's wave, because generally when the wave...
Wait, what did he do? What is this? What? I need to see how this ends up. I don't follow this line of thinking. What he pushes one wave, it kind of crashes. Is this maybe the idea is that maybe they killed a few minions because it looks like they were a little into the wave, and now it's going to slow push. By the time that Ezreal walks down, it'll be good for Cloud9.
So does end up staying around. Yeah, and Sven actually...
Here's the wave that's coming in.
Thinking, okay, I'm safe, Flabber's
What's
here,
the wave?
Vulcan's here, they can't dive.
The wave that's okay. So the wave that is coming in right now for FlyQuest is a cannon wave. So
You can see mid lane, you can see top lane.
maybe
so
it'll be fine.
Does end up
Maybe it'll be
around.
fine.
If he did have to recall the map, Vulcan moved very far forward. Now the reason he did that is to actually stack the enemy's wave. Because generally when the wave crashes to your turret, your minions will stack up a little bit and push towards them. By moving forward and stacking your opponent's wave, you can help to remedy that a little bit. And maybe even make it push towards yourself, deny some minions from them. So little things here can make a big difference in the lane phase.
Solo level 6, Licorice about to hit that.
It must
point here
be...
as well in the top side. Get that first evolution on Kale.
Let me just... I need to see what this wave looks like. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, Azael was mentioning it just now, but... They killed a few of the minions, and then the wave wasn't going... It was going to stack up, and it was just going to be pushing in their favor. Naturally. So... Wild Turtle is forced to push it because this isn't beneficial to him. Because the longer that this accumulates, I mean, there is a world he doesn't have heal anymore. There's no exhaust, which they should know. There is a world if they really want to, they can do this as slow as possible, stack it, then push, and then dive Ballista Thresh. But this is fine too. I thought that they let the wave collapse here and then just like didn't touch the wave, and my original thought was I was like blown away with that line. But this is fine. They kill a few minions, and the wave is stacking up, and now it's going to wait. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is almost dead. To count, I guess, against each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's pushing this way. But they can maybe stack another wave, although that'll be a while. So maybe maybe you just auto push it and it'll just be neutral again. So it's actually not the end of the world. It's actually a completely fine lane wave management. But as you can see, Wild Turtle he's not quickly pushing it, right? He knows it's going to naturally push against him. But what he's doing is he's slowly letting things die because he knows that it's not the most vulnerable for him. He's in a fine spot. It is slightly vulnerable for the bottom lane. Now they know where Santorin is, so it's not like they're going to be threatened by a jungle play, and probably not even a mid lane play because of Galio. Which actually also is a consideration to make when you are considering slow pushing into a potential dive, so I guess it doesn't even really matter. Also, Wild Turtle has teleport, so he can kind of be in a wonky state. Like, he can also trade aggressively. So, maybe the way that this... Because... So the wave stacking is fine. But then I have to ask, is it okay if your opposing player has teleport, and so they can kind of throw themselves out at you, be aggressive, trade, teleport back in, so they can be aggressive, push the lane in, and then teleport back in for free into a bad state for you. Is that actually possible? I mean, right now, Wild Turtle is, as I freeze framed, I don't know if he's going to continue because he's very slowly. He's not autoing these minions. He's going to stack another wave onto this, which is then going to push it even further, and then he's going to have to push the next wave. I don't know if that means he's going to recall and then just come back to a neutral lane state and then be aggressive with his teleport, or that the teleport's just going to stay there forever and he just isn't going to use it. Let's find out, I guess.
Or whatever we call all the different Kale names. I just call it more wings or less wings. And she currently has more wings than she did a minute ago, and that means she has reached her first evolution. Licorice continuing to scale out here on this champion.
Licorice is now a champion now. That's good.
Around him. And the scaling and caling is commencing up here with the 2 Doran's rings in inventory just to make sure he gets himself through that laning phase as easily as possible. You can see also there with his runes, fleet footwork, plus the cookies.
The junglers are still messing with each other on the top side. Santorin eventually needs to give the blue buff to power people.
Easily get some damage on the back end there now that he's
also, it would appear as though Gnar is just walking up through the mid lane and probably going to this play. I'm not sure why. Do we really need to aggress for this crab? I mean, not the end of the world if they get it. Regardless, the wave is. I mean, it looks like Thresh and Kalista are able to push regardless of the wave state. So I guess it doesn't even matter. everything I just said doesn't matter, especially if Ignar's just going to leave the lane.
Topside Scuttle Crab is the harbinger of battle. A nice two-man shockwave coming through from Power of Evil as Solo fires in the
This is another case of why are we on the top side of the map being aggressive?
There, but the knock-up over the wall will find him.
And Ignar decided to come up, and his contribution was hitting the Scuttle Crab, and now Wild Turtle's like, cool, bro, nice. They are getting plates.
Cloud9 had to retreat. I think they could actually win that 3v3, especially from the position they were in. Where
I actually want to see when Cloud9 start being able to aggress onto that wave, because you can actually see right now they're pushing forward. But there's a forward position on the bottom lane. It's fairly difficult to see because of the little icons for YouTube. But right now, and then they get. I don't know if they get pushed back or they just decide. Ignar just leaves. I don't know if that was a decision that Ignar made or if that was a condition of the wave that they were on. Then Wild Turtle is forced to back off and lose minions. Let's actually go back to when I was complaining about the play. The minions are fine, and then they're not fine. When do they stop being fine? He gets. Wait. Okay. Callista's doing Callista things, so she gets 3 CS in just 1 second. Then it gets another 3 seconds. Then another 3 in 5 seconds. Okay. Then they're even, and then she gets 5. She just immediately gets a whole wave of minions in 5. What?
It's commencing up here with the 2 Doran's rings in inventory.
Boom. Kills 3. Probably. Was it a proc by? Nope, not even a proc by Thresh. He just gets 5 minions.
He gets himself through that laning phase as easily as possible. You can see also there with his runes, fleet footwork plus the cookies.
And then even if it was possible, I don't know what the lane state was at this exact moment, but even if it might have been possible for Ezreal to catch up in the farm, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he missed farm or because she just kills the minions faster due to her rend. Then as this is happening, as she's accumulating a 1 wave lead, Ignar's like, alright, deuces, and then just leaves. And then it expands, and she gets plates. Dope. Dope, what a great play.
Everybody walks away from that one. Lots of ults used, lots of summer
Dope.
spells.
That was a really good play.
So that's why Cloud9 had to retreat. I think they could actually
They literally just gave Callista a kill.
Position they were in, where Licorice was actually on the inside track. Solo was ulting from that tri-brush, so still fairly far.
I would have rather Ignar died.
It's gonna cost them on the bottom side.
Because then at least it would have been an interesting highlight play by someone. But now it's just, they just got 2 plays for free because I decided to move to the Scuttle Crab.
They had used some ultimates as well.
As if the top 3 duo couldn't possibly have adjusted for that on their own.
Here for the side of Cloud9, you can see farming advantages in both mid and bottom lane for them. Jungle's pretty much even. Slight farm lead for Solo, actually, there in the top side.
Solo's now TPing to the top side, basically meaning we're not going to get this. We are not looking for our Mountain Drake.
We'll have a bit of a hybrid profile there, at least for a while. Santorin looking to.
He's trying to do some shenanigans. Cloud9 is able to aggress onto the dragon, and of course Cloud9 see not only that they have the lead in the bottom lane massively now thanks to that movement, but also because of the teleport by Solo that they say, alright, dragon's ours, just aggress a little bit and then walk to the dragon. It's free.
Good for them, but
so good play by Cloud9. Preceded by a pretty bad play by FlyQuest. Because honestly, there is a world where you could imagine that Cloud9 could have been, FlyQuest could have been in a position, depending on how that wave was built up. If you can actually push that wave, as you just say, all right, cool, whatever, we'll transfer blue buff, we'll take Romp, and I'll walk down to the dragon right now, as the wave is being pushed toward, is already naturally being pushed towards Cloud9 in the bottom lane, you can get a dragon. You don't actually have to give it up. And now Cloud9 are transferring their bottom lane and their top laners because Rift Herald has been up for some time.
It's a situation where even's not really even because you're
I
supposed to lose.
cannot imagine that this is going.
Success, but
The start of the game is not going the way that FlyQuest probably want it to. It's not the end of the world though, because they do scale, as I mentioned in the draft.
Around the area. Santorin thinking about maybe being able to head in here. He's got Power of Evil and Ignar right behind him. The Pantheon ulti not available. Ignar still only.
Are they gonna go for
5? They try to go in and go for it. That first smite that you saw there coming down did not.
I can see why he did that. It was. I think he left it at like 85 health. Yeah, he left it at 85 health. The reason that you can't, that it's just really hard, is because Kalista makes smiting very, very difficult. In fact, who even was the person who killed it?
5.
Doesn't say.
They try to go in and go for it. That ulti not available. Ignar's here. He's got.
If it's Blabber, you just autoed it and got it for free.
First smite that you saw there.
But pretty sure. I mean, the reason that you have to do that is because you have to either hope that Kalista like miscounts her things, and that maybe she doesn't know how much damage it takes. Probably a case of. I'm sure it's difficult to actually calculate the exact amount of autos. Like, I don't know if they actually count the autos and they're like, all right, it takes this many autos at this health to, like, I don't know if that's a thing. But anyway, Santorin is almost likely never to get that because of Kalista as well as because of Blabber. I mean, Cloud9 have all the control to kill that objective whenever they want to. So Santorin, obviously, the smite was early, but it's not the worst thing. It's not like he did anything super bad.
Gotta say, I'm a little bit disappointed in FlyQuest there. That was a very half-hearted contest. You don't even have anyone.
Also, I mean, Azale is mentioning it now, but also, yes, but I'll just make mention of also, Set has true damage on top of one of his abilities, which means that he can also true damage and then smite at the same time, which is, you know, much farther past what Trundle can smite with. Yeah, no, back to what Azale is going to mention, and then what I usually talk about. Why are we dancing around the objective instead of doing anything else? Why is Kale getting free time on the dragon or on the tower? Why are we giving Kale gold? Yeah, that feels really, really bad. That feels really bad. Did Solo also?
That was a. We're gonna give that Rome.
Wait, let me just look at how this went.
Okay.
Let me just go back all the way to the. Oh wait, I'm going forward. I don't know. Time works, I guess.
There from Solo and from that bottom lane over to a little bit disappointed
that Rift Herald got Vulcan and Ven top side to lose it. Yeah.
So Solo was harumphing down to the bottom lane, then he was like, alright team, we're going to go in, and then they had all 5 members, except for Ezreal. Wild Turtle was kind of like doing the wave. And then they were like, alright, we didn't get it. That's unfortunate. Let's just leave. I hate when teams do this. Why do you need to watch them do an objective? It doesn't make them do anything. You just give free time to people who aren't doing the objective, like the Kale, who is a danger. Like, if they've committed to using this time, commit your time to doing something else. You're not getting this. Look at the things that are stopping you. Also, think about the fact that Cloud9 are stronger earlier than you are. One item is going to be a devastating difference for Cloud9. If FlyQuest can just say no to every play, I mean, I guess kudos, they didn't want to go for a play after the Herald, they just walked out, but
level 5, they try to go in and go for it. That first
Cloud9 could have if they really wanted to, but
it was Cloud9 who secures the Herald there for themselves.
Probably would have been too greedy.
Gotta say I'm a little bit disappointed.
Plus, they didn't have the
in
Kale,
FlyQuest
so
there. That was a very
uh,
test. You don't even have anyone answering Kale. You
they weren't
walked
gonna really do
Solo,
it.
who had no TP all the way up from that bottom lane over towards the Rift Herald, and as a result, you're gonna give over probably at least one plate.
Yep.
If there's a plate, and that
There's a plate, and then
15 or
it's
so
a
CS
guaranteed
advantage is now
Rift
completely
Herald
gone.
charge
So there's
to
a
death
fairly
here.
big
So you
cost
you
to
not
that wave there
only
from Solo.
gave them Rift Heralds, you
Actually
gave them
thought
setup
when
to
they're
kill a
moving,
tower,
great, you know, you can actually just hard engage here, try to take that 5v4,
and
maybe
you
get
gave
some
them
kills
several
away,
minutes to
schedule
do
a
it.
Herald. Instead, they
Take
took
those
a very
plates.
passive approach, and Solo is going to be punished for that roam as a result. So Cloud9 went out on both sides. You get farm and gold on the bottom side. You get that.
These
Rift on the
movements by
top side.
FlyQuest are
Team is
like
now winning, and you
admirable.
can actually just
Like,
take
oh yeah,
Kale
and that's really
and
nice that they
immediately that
are
Kale
willing
goes
to
away,
play
which
for their
puts you
team.
way ahead
But then you have
of
this
all your
problem, and
peers.
you're like,
So
what are
this
we
series
doing?
of events is actually very bad for FlyQuest, and puts kind of the early stages of the game from Kale from like not great to really, really good.
Level 9 on
Every issue that
It's two more to hit
I mean,
that next big
Rich.
break point. Solo getting himself
so every
out as
issue that
Irish tears down the turret
is
with
happening
the
right now is a result
Jelly
of
will be able to get a
FlyQuest
second headbutt off on the tier 2 there,
choosing to
makes
do
it
things that
in terms of the
are not
time
optimal
before Solo's
whatsoever.
able to
They had
back
much
off
better
the eyeball
plays that
and
were
after
available
this
to them.
yet again. 2 minutes until the next Drake spawns, but Cloud9 building a nice lead for themselves here. 1,500 gold up in the early game. And remember, ladies and gentlemen watching at
Zen is
home,
going to get
this
plates
is not
up
like a
here because
situation
there's
what
no
we saw
way for
last
anyone
game
to really
for
stop. I
this
mean,
team
they're
where
aggressing
they have to make sure
through
they
the
make
jungle
absolutely no mistakes
rather
yet
freely.
because of the fact that their
Um,
position is at an inherent disadvantage if they do. C9 does have
They're going to get
to
another
use
plate
some
here.
engage here, so
And there's just
we'll
so
see
much
if they continue
advantage.
building these leads up
My
against
goodness.
FlyQuest, but Fly do now have that Pantheon ulti, so can they get the angle? Can they find the opportunity to collapse and punish C9?
This
as
is
they
the
continue to
strongest
push
point for
forward on
Pantheon
the top
support,
side?
by the way.
Probably not with
I don't,
how they're actually
that's probably not
playing.
true.
Blabber's already
Probably a little.
got
Oh no.
engage.
Vulcan
Oh,
with the
missed everything.
flash into the fray as now
And then
Blabber
Ignar is by
bringing
far the
Ignar
weakest
back
member
into the
of
rest
that
the team,
team, and then
Nisqy
he's
has
now
joined,
just
comes
behind
over
enemy
with the taunt,
lines.
a nice
And he's
shockwave
the
will
first
come
blood
from
right
Cloud9
to
players.
Sven.
But it will not matter. It's C9 getting the first blood, and first blood for the AD carry feels oh so good.
Yeah, that is great for Cloud9. They're even going to be able to continue pressuring this turret. Your Power of Evil is around, so they got to be careful.
Blabber's a little out of place, really out of place actually.
Blabber tries to get out, but will not work, and there we go, sound the horn.
Let me just watch this.
Collapse and punish C9 as they continue to push.
How did
forward
Ignar
on the
get
top side.
into the position he's in?
Probably not with how they're actually playing. You know,
So Vulcan flashes
Here's
for
the
the
Engage.
wild turtle, but then Ignar for some reason is now here. He could have already been walking over here to support his players here, but he's kind of dancing around this. Then he has to sidestep over here to avoid the set ability, the face breaker. And now he is in a bad spot, and he can be brought out from his team and into the welcoming arms of Galio, as you will see. Right?
With the flash into the flay as
Even
now
worse, he's
Blabber is
actually
bringing
just.
Ignar back into the rest of the team, and Nisqy has joined. He comes over with the taunt, a nice shockwave onto a
That was
couple
just an
Cloud9
individual error by
players,
Ignar.
but
It's not.
It will not matter. It's C9 getting
It's pretty
the
bad.
first blood, and
I was gonna say it's not the end of the world.
It's
It could actually be the end of the world.
that is
It
great
could
for
actually be the
Cloud9.
game.
They're going to be able to continue pressuring this turret. Your Power of Evil
Because
is around, so
now
you got to be careful.
did he? Is he about to throw this right onto this ward? That'd be very unfortunate if he does. But so. Oh, also Trundle can just pillar it, but so there is a little question marks on why this is happening. So there's two individual errors being made by the jungler and by the support. It's not really that
Blabber has no
big
flash.
of a
He
deal
might
for
just
me.
wait. Yep.
He does not actually put it on top of the lantern, but the lantern was too far away because he had to manipulate it so it was around the Trundle pillar and the ward. So I mean, Sven is going to get this tower most likely. Maybe he doesn't. No, he doesn't. If Blabber's alive, they get this tower.
One of the
That's
longest
just
careers in the LCS.
not a
had an
good
incredible
look.
amount of success, and back here again, subbed in with FlyQuest.
Why was he there? Why was Blabber in that position?
Feels oh so
Because he was looking for more.
That is great for Cloud9.
What he should be doing is he should just be hitting this
carry feels
ward.
so good.
Yeah, that is
And him being around here, if he wants to actually do that, it's not optimal in terms of farm, but he's ahead of Trundle anyway, so I guess it's not the end of the world, and Santorans are just messing around here anyway. He should be hitting this ward, and then he's not really in danger of anyone, and then he can support them by being here. Also, his Hex Flash could also bring him over the wall, and then he can do something if they need to do something. But here is a little unnecessarily dangerous.
great.
Because he's trying to curl around and then make a play.
Pressuring this turret. Your Power of Evil's around, so they gotta be careful. Blabber has no flash. He might just be dead. Yep.
Blabber tried to get out of there, and Turtle's
Not great.
holding the trophy.
Congratulations, Turtle. One of the longest careers in the LCS, has had an incredible amount of success, and back here again, subbed in with FlyQuest, looking good. Grabs the 1500th kill.
You love to see it. You love to see these longtime LCS veterans hit those marks like that. Maybe it'll be enough to give Turtle that power spike that he needs to continue.
The long lane is actually given to FlyQuest, so there is a potential argument. I actually want to see if it's possible.
Amount of success, and
no,
back here
not really.
Again, subbed in with FlyQuest.
Where Ornn is standing is not far enough for Kale to be like, that's not comfortable for me to be, especially with Santorin moving into his top side anyway, or if he's anywhere, he's back in base. If he's not here, he's back in base. So it's not super dangerous anyway. If it were closer to the tower, I mean, that freeze is just disgusting against Kale. She actually is just really sad. But now, I mean, she's gotten 3 plates. Actually, I guess 1.5. 2 plates, I guess, is the 2 plates. Because one was shared with the jungler, but then she also got the local gold for killing the tower, as well as first tower gold. Sven has gotten, pretty sure, like 4 or 5 plates, not on his own, but still very good. So these dragons you do not want to contest as FlyQuest. I guess you can argue that there is some chance, maybe, but what it looks like to me is that people are about to die. Because everyone now has their 1 item spike. And you don't. You do, though. But 2 primary damage carries do not. Seems needlessly risky to go for this play, especially when your 2 item is probably significantly better than Cloud9's. Yeah, they're just going to be pushed off. Frankly, if I was Cloud9, I'd almost want them to keep going. I'd be like, please keep walking into us. Like, if Licorice was actually later to the play, if he was like sitting in Fog of War here or something, he was walking up and he was like holding out and waiting for Santorin to walk further to commit onto Sven, and then he's there, then he was just dead.
Your Ornn, you've also got that Archangel staff stacking up there for Power of Evil as FlyQuest moves in. Santorin tries to pose a threat, but it's him and Ignar who are now in a lot of trouble. Licorice leading the charge here, chasing after these melee players on the side of FlyQuest who have to fully disengage.
So they give up the next dragon because they don't really have the option to go for it. Trundle should be trying to get farm. It doesn't look like he will be able to because of the shenanigans happening on the bottom side scuttle. And whoa, he's just dead. Wow. How did he know?
Turtle and Power of Evil were actually in the mid lane, so when you see Ezreal and Orianna,
He didn't. He was just going for crab.
Anyone else walking up as
He was walking in this bush, saw him and went. He was like going for the crab, and he was like, "Ah, a wild turtle. That's even better. 2 for 1 special. Look at that!" And then Nisqy just killed him.
That C9 squad. So as Ignar and them showed up, and Nisqy looking for a kill on Turtle.
You might just find it, man. Wild Turtle caught out, slapped down. Nisqy.
My favorite thing about
nowhere. TP'd in, it
Niski
looks
is
like,
that
at the home
when they
ground
started
for it.
losing, he
Just
stopped doing the
zoomed
emotes.
in with the ghost from Spellbook. Hits him with the penguin dab. 1,500 kills.
It has nothing to do with his gameplay.
Takes him down just as he's
That's just a
Niski's
funny
one of
little
our
thing I
top,
noticed.
BMers in the league.
Top
I think.
penguin
Ever
When they
since-
weren't just
yeah, ever since
absolutely
they added the
demolishing
ability for
people,
players
his
to
emote
use
his
the emotes
emote
with their hands in
percentage
game.
went
I feel like
significantly
some
down.
of
So
those
I think it's a stat that we should all be looking at.
Which, I mean, that fits the bill
Um,
for Niski,
okay.
because Niski's one of the few pro players who,
Niski's gonna
whenever
get this
I've been
tower.
in the past, he will come into
So
my chat
now
and say, I don't
both
know
of these
how
side
you
lane
play
tier
stupid Scar every game,
ones
bro.
are
You're just so
down.
bored." He just
As
shows up to
FlyQuest,
BM and
you
enjoys
have
his
to
game
imagine
like
that
a
maybe you
mystical
consider
sage that has to
holding the
defy
lanes
Lynch's
and not
penguin dabs and
doing
Skarner wisdom, then he's off to
anything
smash
for
some
4
lanes
minutes.
and win some more games.
Yeah, Cloud9 in general seem to be pretty big fans of the emotes. Sven loves the thumbs up, I would say.
Unfortunately, Bomby Cinder makes it very difficult. Turtle just shoved the wave anyway, and now because he's like, oh, I can't actually walk up this far because I don't have vision past a certain point. So that's unfortunate, and yeah.
Every single metric you want to measure this one by, man, it's all coming up.
I'm not sure why I did that voice. That's not what Turtle sounds like at all. He has a completely normal, fine voice. Okay, he was able to shove the next wave, but then the wave isn't even going to get shoved into the opposing tower, so that's not even that positive. Vulcan is in a little bit of a precarious spot, but it's fine. FlyQuest actually might be able to look for this.
They sometimes lack that killer instinct, for lack of a better term.
I mean, the argument... Okay, so even if this is happening, right? Turtle could have held the wave for longer and accumulated it, and then pushed it out. And then it would have been a bigger problem for Cloud9 to have to deal with, and then you can go and make this play. Because Turtle hasn't actually contributed to anything that was just happening until just now. Kale is just getting free time on the bottom side. I mean, Kale doesn't actually want to join up with any of the shenanigans until... Oh, no. They're still alive. Licorice is here, and that's... Yeah... That was about as good for FlyQuest as it was going to get at that exact moment, and then Kalista happened.
This one looks like they will, but I think C9 doesn't really care because they're actually...
So we get the shockwave from Power of Evil, and then we get Ignar coming in. I don't know who he's going to hit. It doesn't really matter. While Licorice would like some free time on that tier 2, he can very easily teleport over here. He'll probably come onto this ward. No, he won't. He'll come onto one of these minions. Not on the red side. And then they're kind of all bunched up, so they don't really have anywhere to go. They're in this really tight corridor. I mean, their only exit is over this way. Sven is late to the play, but they have a good amount of champions that can keep them close together. I believe that one of the people who took like no damage was Niski, so he is going to be able to do something. Vulcan can kind of come in here. He can hit a hook very easily. There's a whole bunch of targets. Come in here, get a good Galio ultimate. Also, that being here, you can also come in and bring someone out if Ignar decides to go in. So if Ignar actually takes that E, is it easy? Yeah, it's E. Then he'll just get showstoppered out back into this jumbled mess. Then Vulcan will come into this mess, and then you're gonna have a Niski ultimate, and then Sven is gonna clean up the entire fight. Also, you're gonna have the Gale who's gonna come in too.
Actually getting a turn on the bottom side.
Okay. There is a way to do it frame by frame, but I'm not going to do that because I don't know how to do that. Yep. And then they almost got Niski. It doesn't change the fight really, even if they do get him. And then they just get chased down.
Sven is picking up so much money here in this game. Triple kill for the Kalista.
Yeah, Zale's reaction is pretty much my reaction.
On a different spear, just
oh.
These kills up, and Cloud9 will wipe that fight out.
All right, I take it back. Go next fast. this one's looking pretty wrapped up after that fight.
That's why you don't go for that Herald, by the way.
Pretty much a guaranteed Rift Herald there, but I think they wanted more because they know it's like the average value of Rift Herald is say half a turn.
kills.
Is it even? Was it actually a guaranteed Rift Herald?
Sven grabs the kill on to
Who got this?
Save.
Blabber
Ladies
did.
and gentlemen, the Galio has landed.
So let's look. Let's assume.
On both sides.
Let's look at how this
They
goes,
may
right?
be able to grab this one. Looks like they will, but I think C9 doesn't really care because they're actually getting it.
Oh, they turned. This wasn't guaranteed. This was gonna be a fight no matter what. Whether they hit the shockwave or not, I mean, they had to know that this was gonna be a fight. They're stacked on top of each other, which is perfectly optimal for like every single champion on this team, including the Kale, who's not even here yet. So they knew this was gonna be a fight. They chose this fight. Now let's see what items they were on where they chose this fight. Alright, ready? 2 levels away from Ornn items. 1.5. 1. 1. Not even really 1.5 because Manamune doesn't count as really one item. And then obviously the sports don't matter. 1. 1.5. A lot more than his opponent. And 1. Who did I say has a better level 1 item? Cloud9.
They don't always go for those super aggressive plays. I think the Ornn Roam for the last Rift Trail was a great example where they weren't willing to commit to the fight, instead backed off and lost on both sides. They may be able to grab this one. Looks like they will, but I think C9 doesn't really care because they're actually getting a turn on the bottom side.
Oh, Cloud9 trying to fight this one though. Here comes your
This was going to be a fight no matter what. It was just down to timing for Cloud9 and whether they get to pick and choose. Because as soon as Sven walks in there, I mean, the fight's just happening. You could also see Blabber was hex flashing in to a bush to get a good angle, so I mean it was gonna happen no matter what.
All of these guys' heads on a different spear, just racking these kills up.
Did Set like get 2 levels in this fight? No, he was already level 9. Yeah. I thought he was level 8 for some reason.
And Cloud9 will wipe that fight out.
All right, I take it back. Go next fast. This one's looking pretty wrapped up after that fight. FlyQuest had what was, pretty much a guaranteed Rift Herald there.
Now all the tier 1s are dead. The Rift Herald is still on Niski, which means that a tier 2 is very close to being dead, especially with their composition, who is able to dive fairly easily, and there's no real super good defensive options. I mean, I guess there are, it's just that you don't want to have to be in a position to be using them like this against a very strong Cloud9, or combination of Cloud9's comp.
Licorice was so quick on that TP. Credit to him, because if he was a split second slower, I think Niski actually would have died. Niski even had a spellbook barrier and barely survived until Licorice arrived for the heal, for the ultimate.
I mean,
keeps them up.
Yeah. It was a good TP by, as Zale was mentioning, it was a good TP by Licorice. I didn't think it actually matters whether Niski lives or dies, but he did save him, so yeah, see? Look, the frequency of the emotes is just so much higher when he's winning, right? But then you look at the later games or when he's losing, and it's just like very significant drop off in that emote usage.
So this just means that when you look at it holistically,
a lot of damage by that Trundle.
Any way that FlyQuest are going to match up to Cloud9 in the current state of the game? 6,000 gold lead.
Trundle is like 6 camps behind the set. That feels real good.
But that does put them on that ever dangerous soul point of giving up an ocean soul if they let even one more.
You're very likely to just sit around this side of the map. Blabber is probably going to spawn that Herald a little before the Dragon spawns. Not here, probably going to be moving toward the mid lane to spawn it.
Jungle, they'll then retreat back towards the dragon. The reason they're trying to control the space is to stop any vision coming through, and Santorin in trouble.
Or they could just get Santorin and then Niski can spawn it here. I forgot that Niski's the one who's holding it, not Blabber. So he should be spawning it fairly soon. I think that they have a pretty free dragon without any assistance. I don't know where they're going to use it, if they're not going to use it on mid, because there was no way for, I mean, at the very least, you get at least the charge, which is damage on this tower, and that's maybe like one hit after that right now. I think that's super worth it. You're not gonna get any more. You're not gonna get anything better than that, frankly. I mean, there's no way that they have to imagine. All right, we're gonna. Okay. You're gonna spawn it now? You gotta use it.
Ignore has been largely very ineffective this game on the Pantheon, and now gonna face
He just used it.
Okay.
I can't see the value. And they found someone. They found Ignar.
It's just a slam-a-palooza as Cloud9.
Yeah, I'd rather have it been used mid, but it's fine.
Solo tries to get himself out of this one.
They could have used it
Not
mid.
even gonna get the second half of the Ornn ulti off.
I guess, you know what? Never mind. They're actually geniuses. They're not gonna get this. That's gonna die. He's just gonna go around and is dead. Yeah. That's the same effectiveness. It's just that you could have gotten the mid lane, and I guess you're gonna get the mid lane anyway. So what do I even know?
You've given up a little bit from
I mean, the game is just run way out of FlyQuest control. Way out of FlyQuest control. And it's not because FlyQuest, you know, had low agency or whatever, and Cloud9 were just making insane plays left and right. They were inviting the problems. FlyQuest were inviting the issues that created the advantage for Cloud9. Like all of them were, you could pinpoint the exact action that FlyQuest took that you can then say this is why Cloud9 got an advantage. If you just watch the gold graph and you say here's a spike for Cloud9, you could go back and you can see exactly where a member of FlyQuest or FlyQuest in general made a decision that created that spike for Cloud9. Which is why I've always been skeptical of Cloud9's dominance. Not to say that they're not good players, not to say that they're not a good team, just that I've always been skeptical of their dominance because of the fact that a lot of what's going on is Cloud9 are being granted so much. They're just being gifted advantages. They're just like, do you want to win the game? Okay. And now, I mean, they really do know how to snowball, though. I will say they know how to use the advantage, which is not something that a lot of teams can say.
Even actually, spent less time in lane to donate solo experience to Turtle. As a result, he's really underleveled because they aren't winning any fights. He's not getting experience.
How much longer is this game? There's no way this game lasts for that much longer, right?
Level 8. Great.
Oh, almost literally no time actually.
or Galio now when you're level 8, right? Like, he's 3 levels behind the second lowest person, which is the support on the other team.
Okay, we're going to go for a play. Santorin almost dies. Blabber takes a bit of damage.
Pretty important defensive cooldown gone for the rest of the game there, as Cloud9 will continue pushing in both mid and top. Niski being the one to keep his mid lane enchanted with the Baron buff as the rest of the team tries to put the damage into the tier 3 there in the top lane. FlyQuest holding on for now. Solo stepping up there in mid lane, trying to keep Niski as far away as possible. The waves are a little bit...
I mean, it's really just as simple as it can get. Just you push the towers in, take the advantage you can, and you just slightly damage things. So you can do it slowly, I guess, if you want to. You could just wait for the soul. Might be what Cloud9 are doing. They're being a little more patient than they really should be, maybe. But with the advantage that they have, even Sven on Kalista is going to scale. Like,
I don't even think that like one teamfight loss is enough.
That made it seem like Sven was like a negative factor. That even Kalista scales. Then it's not negative. Not a negative factor to that scaling. Kalista scales just fine when she's that much ahead of her of the opposing team. And also, Licorice is now 15 of 16. Take the next 40 seconds. You keep pushing them in and in. Now the Baron buff is gone, though, so that is something to take note.
You say there's no vision whatsoever by this dragon. There's no vision whatsoever ever.
Licorice is actually just able to grab this. Can he just get this for free? No way. No way. He's dead. He's not dead. He's dead. It was a little aggressive by Licorice. They still should be able to get the dragon. I mean, it's still free. Why aren't they already at the dragon? They should be literally waiting for spawn. Never mind, they're going for the flip. I mean, they're already very strong, so I guess it doesn't matter. They just win the game. They don't need the dragon. They set up like a, it's not a Fnatic brush, but okay, Niski can't, I mean, I guess he's gonna get him. Fine. I mean, if I wouldn't criticize this play, it was fine. But it's a case of you could have just gotten the Ocean Soul and won the game. Like, alright, they just keep, it's fine. It's not really that much of a difference. Does it get executed? Yeah, look at that.
Good use of emotes there from Santorin, you know. The thumbs up into the well played. I like it. Give him credit for that. Why take the chance if you're Cloud9? You don't know if he has Smite or not because you're not going to track both charges. It's such a tiny.
I don't know if he has Smite or not.
But Blabber chasing him out.
Oh, I guess I
solo that dragon means there's
so
no opportunity
okay. So the logic that Azael is trying to put out is, what if Santorin walks in after being topside and smites it? I don't know if that's actually possible from that position. I think if you're literally just standing on top of the dragon and you just all the rest of you kill it, it doesn't matter what he does. He's gonna walk in and he's gonna be sad because the dragon's dead.
It's going to be really difficult to take him down if you focus everything and pick off his Ven somehow. You still have to deal with
Licorice is still level 15, but now he's on 3 items and he's just huge.
Cloud9, if this team truly is
And it looks like Kalista went
full,
basically full lifesteal. Or is going to have a death stand, so it's pretty much every lifesteal item. That would make sense in an AD carry. Interesting. I wonder if that's optimal damage. I mean, it's definitely optimal survivability. I mean, I guess outside of a GA, but Licorice is still not 16. Can he please reach 16? Is he gonna reach 16 before the end of the game? Wait. Oh, he got, okay. I thought he hit the ult and it just like didn't work, but it looks like it was he was CC'd due to a death sentence. Alright, he's 16 and the game's over. Look at that. Kale got to 16 and then the game ends. Look at that. What a coincidence. What a coincidence. What a coincidence? Obviously not. All planned. See, Cloud9 knew that they needed the Kale to be really strong at 16, and then they could finally end the game. Obviously, it's not the fact that they were up 12k gold and they had Ocean Soul, and they also had a previous Baron. No, it's Kale hit 16. Alright, jokes aside. Let me just let the Nexus explode and I can do the wrap up. Wrap up my thoughts. And alright, cool. So Kale felt so out of place that entire time. I cannot imagine that Licorice is sitting there like, yeah guys, I really contributed. I'm really glad that we made this pick. I'm really like I think this was really good for us. It honestly feels like there's no way he comes back into that review room and is like, I felt really impactful. He's just gonna goes back and he's gonna say, I ulted Niski once and saved his life. But I mean, a lot of what was happening was FlyQuest doing something pretty wrong, macro or micro wise, and then giving Cloud9 advantages, and Cloud9's response was generally just very good in the face of those. Generally, though, a lot of the response was just playing exactly what they were going to do anyway. So, like the Ignar movement from top lane, or from bottom lane up, so go back. You can go back to that play. It's before this. Was it before this? It was. So here, the Ignar roam. We'll just go back to when he was roaming up. So Ignar roam, and then you see the advantage start to really escalate. So you see Kalista continuously just get higher and higher CS, and Ezra's like, can I please have some more? So Ignar is coming in, and he's basically abandoned his Ezreal, who's now falling further and further behind, which they don't get anything, and then that creates the advantage for Callista, and then she's also hitting towers. She's hitting the tower, gets some plates from this play too, so she gets she gets a kill worth because of the plates. So she gets 2 plates, it's 320 gold. I guess it's shared between them, so it's 160 gold, so it's not the same as a kill, but still 160 gold injection into a Callista is pretty good. It's the equivalent of what, like 8 minions? So the CS lead is even worse if you consider that. And then
They were in where
go even further.
Everybody in jungle's pretty much
I mean, the dragon was not really an option for FlyQuest. They could have gotten. I mean, at this point, at this stage, they could not have gotten it with the game state as it was at that moment. But I think that if Ignore doesn't leave, they could potentially have done it if they also don't aggress onto the Scuttle Crab. If Santorin just moves towards the bottom lane, they use the wave that was accumulated to push it in and then swing to the dragon. I think that that's a viable play for FlyQuest. But maybe I'm overestimating their speed as well as the reaction that Cloud9 would have. So maybe that's just I'm thinking too much of play. And maybe I'm just grasping for a winning play for FlyQuest from that position. Okay, so here, I mean, so here's another mistake. They move solo. He was walking down, and then he moves over here, while Kale is just like, okay, I'll just get free stuff. It's cool. I was behind. Look at that. Licorice ain't having fun. Like, he's down 20 CS.
20 CS, he's actually lost. Goal is to just try to farm even, right?
He's not just down 20 CS, he's also down 2 plates. Solo's having the time of his life.
But, you know,
and then now he's evened up the advantage completely, and the plate advantage goes down by 1 too. So if there's an advantage at all, it's like 8 minions worth. For solo when it was like 30. All because they decided to move for this play and then do nothing. And like watch Cloud9 take it. So that was unfortunate.
Or maybe get some kills at the very least. Get that.
There's another spike on the gold graph for Cloud9.
That you can actually just drop hair. Puts kind of the early stages of the game.
At this point, I mean, this play was unavoidable. Basically, I don't know if there's really anything Solo can do. They grab the bottom tower, get first tower, so even bigger injection, which is also part of the previous thing that I mentioned, where the spike. So that's all part of the spike. The Solo moving allows Licorice to get back into the game, even up the plates, because he basically got 2 plates now. So the 2 plates are now his. Also, Licorice gets the local gold for the first tower. He also gets local gold for the no, that's what I there was nothing else. He's just gets the local gold for the first tower. So that puts him pretty in line with, if not ahead of, the Ornn. And when Kale is ahead or in line with you after laning phase, you feel pretty bad about it. And then you see, I mean, the play here ends up going bad. Obviously, it's very difficult to imagine a play that prevents this from going down. I mean, I guess they could react faster.
Shelly will not be able to get a second headbutt on the Kale. Needs 2 more to hit that next big break point.
And even donate that roam as a result. So Cloud9 win approach, and so
I wanna check something.
Actually just hard engage here, try to take that 5v4.
So Ezreal gets free time because Kalista and Thresh reset. They are not resetting to go bottom.
As a result, so Cloud9, which is what
they just go back top. Thresh is actually in the mid lane. Ignar moves down towards the mid lane. He actually uses his ult to do anything. They don't even highlight it. it was just
force that
that,
Kristen.
I guess, not impactful.
Level
Um,
10 on the Kale. Needs 2 more to hit that next
He's
big
rich.
break point. So
Is the game from Kale from like not great to
tier 1, 5,000 gold up in the early game. And remember, ladies and gentlemen watching at home, this is not one before so
good. So, you know, this series of events, Rift Herald on the top side.
they could have just not gone for that play
and even
in
donate
mid.
gold
That doesn't
over to
work.
Licorice to put him
And
in.
if Santorin decides, all right, I'm not going to go for that play. I'm just going to go Wolves, Gromp, back, reset to topside to protect the Ezreal, who actually might need protection because the Kalista's going to walk back up to the lane and be able to push because she's not going to go to the tower that doesn't have plates. She's going to go to the tower with plates because she's Kalista and she wants the extra gold advantage over the course of the game. And Ornn doesn't really need assistance from the Kale, so as long as that's fine, you know, whatever, he can get pushed in. It's not the end of the world. Uh, the plates are the end of the world because it does increase the advantage. So here again we see what's going on. Cloud9 making a serious play? No, they're just they're doing exactly what they were going to do no matter what happened. They're just completely agnostic of what the opponent's doing, and the FlyQuest response is poor. Now, it might be a little harsh to say that you want to go all the way back and say like this mid lane play wasn't good, and then he should have gone, you know, Wolves and Gromp and the reset, and then gone back up here to protect the tower so that they can't just aggress onto it for free. Maybe that's an unfair criticism, but I think that we have to be willing to look back and figure out the sequences that create the situations we're in, where Cloud9 is getting an advantage.
2 more to hit here yet
And when
again.
we see here,
1,000
the
gold
reason
up.
why Sven is just able to walk up to this tower is because Ignar used his ultimate in a failed gank, or I guess not a successful gank. I don't know how successful it really was. I can't call it failed. And Trundle used his time, and I mean jungle is a roll of seconds. Like every second is valuable, genuinely. You know, if you waste 3 seconds doing something, that's bad. If you waste 2 seconds doing something, it might be within margin of acceptability, but it's still not optimal, right? So him using time, he actually goes up and around, and then doesn't even get to reset. So that's another thing. He's not even on a reset when this happens. I don't know how much gold he's sitting on though. Let me actually. Now I need to know.
For that roam,
I want to know the last time he backed.
So the mid laner doesn't get it. Unfortunately for them, they were just a little bit too slow.
Has he? Did he not back for like 30 CS?
Says a lot of times you see those Kales
Okay.
to pass from Cloud. Unfortunately, bottom 9
for that first dragon, get aggressive though. That also.
Okay. So he's finally backed. By the way, he wasted extra time going down here instead of clearing these and then resetting. It doesn't really matter. It's not the end of the world.
So, you know, the Kale isn't really doing that well thus far.
Okay, so he's at 56 CS.
He's got Power of Evil, and
Let's go back to that play.
Farming gold on the bottom side.
Gage here, so we'll see if they can continue.
Right here, 56. If he reset, he's at 73. That's math is difficult, I guess. Was 17 extra CS?
Like a situation what we saw last game with
Feel
Hunter
like
versus Team Liquid.
that's if he doesn't use his time on the mid lane, he does the camps, goes back, then he comes back with wards, he comes back with boots, comes back with crystal, ruby crystal. He's on the play so that he can actually prevent this from happening. Then they are not able to aggress onto the jungle for free because Trundle would be there.
Liquid where they
I don't want to pin all of this on Santorin, by the way. I feel I don't want to. In fact, I don't want to pin any of the plays on any individual player. I think that these are team decisions that are being made.
We'll see if they can continue building these leads up against FlyQuest, but Fly do now have that Pantheon ulti, so can they get
So then we see that this becomes a problem. I mean, Ignar makes a micro decision. I again do not enjoy, just like I don't praise like huge unless it's like a huge individual outplay. I don't really like praising individual plays. I more like to see the team aspect of the game. I don't like criticizing individual plays unless it's like super egregious. This is not super egregious. And every other play was more team oriented.
He comes over with the taunt, a nice shockwave onto a couple Cloud9 players, but it will not matter. It's C9 getting the first blood to get out,
Okay.
but it will not work.
And Blabber actually comes back.
1500.
Wait.
I'm gonna be able to continue pressuring this turret.
For the record, was there like a like a little air horn?
Yep. Blabber tries to get out, but it will not work. And there we go.
There was an air horn. I don't know who set that off. But that's fun. Okay.
Looking good. Grabs the 50.
So Blabber actually, if he lives, they might actually be able to get the tower. Probably not though. They actually at least get another plate, I think. So let's look. Look at the. Okay. This isn't the world.
Caught out, slapped down.
That one.
With an easy solo kill.
This came out of nowhere. TP.
I mean, he did come out of nowhere, as Azale was saying there, so that's fair enough. I mean, you know, what are you gonna do?
Garner for every game, bro. I'd be so bored. He just shows up in games.
Yeah, Cloud9.
Okay. Solos actually is holding the wave as best as he can. He did just buy a bombing cinder here. I did mention that, but so he can't really freeze it. And then of course Ezreal is Wild Turtle is pushing it, and I will blame that individually on him. But technically speaking, wave management at this stage in the game at 15 minutes should be a team decision. So every wave that is being pushed, every wave that is being held, every lane assignment is a team decision. So technically, I should probably be blaming FlyQuest, but I don't know if they are really considering how Ezreal is individually pushing the wave to be a team decision.
To be pretty big fans.
Then again, I guess I don't know how they're considering the other plays either. Are those Is Ignar's movement a team decision? Is Solo's movement a team decision? So I'll say that Ezreal's pushing the wave is a team decision as well, just to stay consistent. Okay, and then here is another play. What are we doing? Here's the Rift Herald. Is Cloud9 creating this play? Are they doing it? No. They are seeing, they are reacting to a greedy play by the FlyQuest team. So again, we have a situation where Cloud9 was already going to do this. They were already going to be around here. If you tagged around while they were doing it, they would have done the same thing. Every play that Cloud9 is getting an advantage is a result of FlyQuest making a series of or a set mistake. Isn't to say that Cloud9 didn't play off of their advantage well or whatever. Just when you get to this point, I mean, the game is doomed, right? So in conclusion, being that this is a match that is going to be coming soon, FlyQuest need to make sure that they can eliminate the amount of mistakes that they make, and also be aware of the way that Cloud9 gets advantages. This is not a singular game situation. Cloud9 get advantages by capitalizing on the mistakes of the opposing team on the plays that they were already going to make. Cloud9 very seldomly is like, all right, we're going to make this extreme, game-specific movement. We're going to make this game-specific play. They are, I mean, at least from this example, I guess I shouldn't blanket statement them, but very commonly they are capitalizing on the mistakes of their opponents and just doing the plays they were already going to make. The go to this objective, go to this objective, go to this wave, clear it, go to this objective. I'm making it sound simple because it's actually not as simple as that. But there wasn't a place where Cloud9 had to deviate from their ordinary strategy. I guess the only real deviation was that I could tell before the game ran away from FlyQuest was Licorice wanting to probably get the tower as well as get the Herald. They end up being forced to fight earlier than they probably were looking to. I've been Rojo. Can't wait for later today. Gonna be fun.